Good afternoon, rather. The July 9, 2024 meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Education is called to order at 5:00 p.m. Thank you for joining us. Please remember to mute all electronic devices. At this time, we welcome Reverend Katrina Waters of the Hilliard Chapel AME Zion Church to bring our invocation. Welcome, Reverend Waters.
If you would bow with me as we go to God in prayer. Eternal God, our Father, we give you thanks for this day. God, we thank you that in its end we shall see it no more. And we thank you that you've allowed us to see it, that we may be better for it into the work that you have charged to our hands. God, as we come into this gathering, oh God, as we come to this meeting, God, you already know. God, you've seen the agenda. You know the issues and the concerns. And so right now, God, we give it over to you. We invite your presence to come and reign among us. God, I pray that you would give this board and this superintendent and all of those who are a part of the work of MPS, God, give them wisdom and knowledge and understanding, oh God, that you will guard their hearts and their minds, that in all that we do, God, we do what is best for your children. God, we thank you that you've allowed us, oh God, the opportunity to pour into the children, oh God, whether it's from building buildings, cleaning the grounds, teaching in the classroom, or administrating, whatever it might be, let us do it to your glory. Now, God, no weapon formed against them shall prosper. Amen. And every tongue that wags up against it shall utterly fall. God, I thank you right now that you will bind the tricks of the enemy, that God, internally and externally, God, that you will remove every agenda that is not your agenda. God, that you will guide every word, and whatever fiery darts that might try to come this way through MPS, God, we send it back to the pit from which it has come. So God, I thank you that you're rising up warriors. I thank you that you're rising up people who care and mean MPS good. And anybody that does not, God, you move them out of the way and allow them to be our footstool. And so God, bless us, bless the children, bless the parents, bless the teachers and the staff and the administrators and all of those who've charged to this task. When it's all said and done, God, let us say that we've done our best, no matter what our task is. And we acknowledge that we've not always done it right. So we repent for that right now in the name of Jesus, that we might be free to be used by you. And all of God's children said together, if you stand in agreement with this prayer in God's word, say amen, amen, and amen.
Thank you, Reverend Waters. At this time, we invite each of you to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There are 7 members present this evening. I declare that a quorum is present, and our agenda has been posted for review. If there is no objection, we will adopt this agenda.
I have objection.
There is objection. What's your objection?
There are items that are not on this agenda that were asked to be on agenda through 3 different emails, and I think we need to discuss them. One would be on curriculum programs that we're using, and also positions that we're filling, and they either need to be discussed openly in public or executive session. I think executive session would be better.
Thank you. So at the appropriate time, you could make that motion for executive session?
When would that be? I move that we have an executive session based on curriculum programs and positions that the MPS is filling for the 24-25 year.
So at this time, I would like to get a motion to approve our agenda with the addition of an executive session to discuss those items. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve this agenda with the addition of an executive session. All those, is there a discussion? All those in favor, raise your hands. It passes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, before we move on, since we had that one, I would also like to make an amendment to the agenda that we move under consider agenda items C, D, and E and place them under consider for approval for F,
The-
G, and H.
The agenda has been approved, with
No, then that's okay.
with that addition.
Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm not understanding. Wait, she was adding, I thought she was adding, are we saying we can't do that?
The motion's already passed.
Yeah, the agenda as you recommended for approval has been approved, has
That's
been
fine.
passed.
That's fine.
I'm trying to see where we are on this agenda.
May I
At this-
ask a question, please?
You may ask a
Which-
question.
Which numbers were you saying that were you going to ask for? B, C?
The agenda has been approved.
I know, I just was asking what she was talking about.
Okay.
B, C, and which one?
As we move the agenda, I'm going to, at this time, just greet you with a few remarks. Our members and our superintendent spent several days with other education leaders across our state as we gathered together to learn and to grow. The theme explored working to understand our why and to harness it to create a brighter future for our children and our communities. We have returned to this place with intentional introspection and collaboration. We are ready for action. Knowing our why is more than just a theme. It is a call to discover the deep-rooted reasons behind our dedication to the cause of educating and making the lives of our young scholars, their families, and our community better. We had some intensive discussions about recognizing the power of purpose in overcoming the challenges that befall many of our students and people in our community regarding poverty and the necessity for bridging the gaps between generations. Our why lies in the unwavering belief that every child deserves the opportunity to reach his or her full potential. It is driven by the understanding that education is the cornerstone of breaking the cycle of poverty, and that a united community is the bedrock of lasting change. To the parents, educators, and community leaders present with us today, your commitment and passion are the lifeblood of our collective mission. Your efforts, big and small, contribute to a tapestry of hope and of possibility. Let us continue to be relentless advocates for our children, ensuring that they do have the resources, the encouragement, and the love that they need to succeed. Fellow board members, our responsibility to craft and implement effective policies is essential for creating the framework for our community to thrive. Our partners trust in our ability to develop and to enforce policies that reflect the needs and the aspirations of this community. Our role is critical in ensuring that a robust and equitable framework supports our shared vision. We respectfully strive to carry out our duties with the same commitment and foresight that have brought us this far, always always considering that our constituents and our community leaders' voices and experiences are heard and are important. By respecting and supporting each other's roles, we can create a synergy that does amplify our impact. Let us continue to work hand in hand with mutual respect and collaboration to build a future where every child and every family has the opportunity to experience success. As president of this board, I respect and appreciate the dedication, the collaboration, and the unwavering belief in the power of our collective efforts. Together, we have already made a significant difference in our city, and I am confident that we can and we will continue to do so. Speaking of making a difference, tonight, we are honoring a dedicated and amazing woman who truly loved the art of education, students, parents, and her community. Mrs. Jeanette Wright, who served in this district for over 30 years, passed away recently. Her legacy will continue, and now we will have Ms. Jones share more remarks honoring Mrs. Jeanette Wright. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Brown, and board members. Tonight, with permission from Mrs. Wright's family, I would like to share with you all just a few remarks regarding Ms. Wright. And again, we are deeply saddened by the passing of Ms. Wright, and I'll start with her obituary. Mrs. Jeanette McNair Wright of Montgomery, Alabama, passed away on June 20th, 2024. Mrs. Wright was born on September 25th, and because I know Ms. Wright, or I remember Mrs. Wright, I won't say the year, but she was born to the parents of Lester McNair and Clemmie Coleman McNair in Norfolk, Virginia. The family moved to Columbus, Georgia, shortly after her father passed away. Mrs. Wright graduated from Hardaway High School in 1968. After high school, she attended Troy University and graduated in 1972 with a bachelor's degree in English education and a minor in speech and theater. She went on to achieve her master's degree in English education from Troy University and furthered her education at Auburn University in Montgomery with an educational administration certification. Mrs. Wright began teaching in Montgomery City Schools, or Montgomery Public Schools, in 1974, and her career spanned a total of 50 years. During her career, she primarily taught ninth grade English at the Cloverdale Junior High School, as well as freshman English at the Alabama State University for a number of years. The family hopes that this obituary meets her stringent writing standards. In 1994, she transitioned from the classroom to the assistant principal position at Brubaker Junior High School, where she served for 5 years. She was promoted to principal at Baldwin Arts and Academic Middle School in 1999, where she served until her retirement in 2023. In 2019, Baldwin was named a National Blue Ribbon School, which Mrs. Wright was tremendously proud of. Mrs. Wright was extremely supportive of her school and students, and she attended every event that her students participated in over the years. Mrs. Wright loved to read, frequented many local plays and the theater. Attending the Shakespeare Festival was one of her passions. She also loved spending time with her daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughters, all who live in New Jersey. And Madam President, I'm happy to share that the family is watching tonight. They wanted to send their regards and to say thank you. Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, we are ready for our scheduled public comments. We welcome Mr. William Gaillard to the mic to discuss Think Big activities in MPS. We're going to remind you that there is a 3-minute limit. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Coleman, Dr. Brown. I could be too short today, and that is simply to say that think big works. And the reason why I know it works is because I've been working it. When I was here the last time, I told you all that I was proud to be a certified substitute teacher. You all remember that. And I wanted you to know that I'm not talking about what people tell me about what's happening in the classroom. I know because I've been in the classroom. And I've been doing the Think Big program in the classroom. Every day I go in, that's what I start with. I start with playing the Think Big song. They get the Think Big message right from the beginning. And then all day long, I carry a big Think Big sign around so that the students think that I'm a strange person. And one of them finally asked me, "Why do you take that Think Big sign everywhere you go?" And I was delighted to answer, because we all need to think big. That was pretty simple. Now, I'm telling you right now that my colleague who's sitting in the back, would you stand up, please? This is my colleague. She and I are working at the West End Boys and Girls Club. And we are working with rough kids. But God has blessed us to teach them the Think Big pledge, the Think Big motto, the Think Big song, and would you believe we're even teaching them the 10 Commandments. I'm really finished. I just want you to know that Think Big works, and it can help you do what you really want to do in terms of academic achievement as well as behavior. And I would love to help, just like Helping Montgomery Families Initiative. I would like to have an opportunity like that if you all would consider it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do y'all have any questions for me?
We won't ask questions at this time, but some of us might get a chance to have more conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2023 audit report presented by Ms. Jana White. Ms. White, welcome.
Hi. In accordance with the provisions of Act Number 2006-196, Acts of Alabama, Code of Alabama 1975, Section 16-13A-73D, commonly referred to as the School Fiscal Accountability Act, I am here on behalf of the State of Alabama Department of Examiners of Public Accounts to present our audit report on the Montgomery County Board of Education covering the period October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. We conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards for the purpose of rendering an opinion on the financial statements and to determine whether the board complied with applicable laws and regulations. We also conducted an audit of the board's federal financial assistance programs in accordance with those same standards and the requirements of Title II, U.S. Code of Federal Regulations, Part 200, Uniform Administrative Requirements, Cost Principles, and Audit Requirements for Federal Awards, also known as Uniform Guidance. We issued an unmodified opinion on the board's financial statements as of and for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023. This means that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. In addition, we issued an unmodified opinion on the board's major federal financial assistance programs, which included the Title I program and the Special Education Cluster. We issued a qualified opinion on the Education Stabilization Fund, which is discussed in the finding. The local schools selected for comprehensive testing were Dalreda, Flowers, W.S. Garrett, and Morning View Elementary Schools. All other schools were subjected to limited testing. We reported the following finding in our report. Finding 2023-1, the board failed to comply with wage rate requirements for federally funded construction contracts exceeding $2,000. The entire report is available on our website, examiners.alabama.gov, under the Search Audit Reports tab. This concludes my presentation. I would like to thank you and your central office staff for your assistance and cooperation during the audit process. We look forward to seeing you all again next year.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there questions? Hearing none at this time. You've heard the report of the auditor. At this time, what is the recommendation of our superintendent?
Madam President, I'd like to recommend that the board receive and endorse the report, the audit report as stated.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I motion that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
I second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent regarding our fiscal year 23 audit report. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. Thank you. At this time, we welcome Ms. Sonia Floyd to present two proposals. We will take those one at a time, starting with, did I skip something? Forgive me. Thank you, Ms. Floyd. I apologize. Conversion Schools Data Update from Ms. Ann Sykes.
Good evening, Dr. Brown, Dr. Coleman, members of the board. We're not going to speak long, but I know that there's been questions, and I wanted to at least give kind of an interim update with some data that may be helpful, and also answering questions if needed. We'll, of course, come back with a fuller report after all data is in for this year. So limited data, as y'all know, is here already, really only the reading data. But I also have the previous year overview up there. I believe y'all have a handout, so I'll briefly go through it. I also want to introduce Ms. Erica Anderson, who is our regional director with Phelan Leadership Academies. Again, in the fall, we look forward to having our whole leadership team again present and available there, all at Mega, as is so many people's would. So I just wanted to go over a couple of laying kind of groundwork with as far as when the schools converted. I know that sometimes it seems like they were converted years ago, and as you can see, both Nixon and Bellingrass just completed their second year. So we really only have 1 year of full data, which is included, and then Davis was converted. They've just completed their third year. One of the things that I also wanted to just point out of where the schools were prior to conversion, and that the intentionality and the intent of the conversion was working in a feeder pattern so that we would have a continuum over a number of years to change trajectories in partnership with the district. I think that's an important part of what this was originally crafted and proposed to do, so that we have students coming ultimately K through 8 with a full continuum, but that takes several years. And the other thing I want to just point out and remind us all, these are conversion, or also known as turnaround schools, very close to the work everybody's doing, but a turnaround school is very different than a startup charter school. A turnaround conversion is all the students in the same school at once. There's no adding a grade every year, and all the students are the same students that were there the prior year prior to conversion. Turnaround work takes significant time and effort, and usually the trajectory we see is that the first 1 to 3 years you're stabilizing culture and climate, expectations, and framework before you see significant trajectories starting on the actual academic performance. That's just as an overview. I'm just going to very quickly go through what you'll see on the next page is the previous year basing off of the report cards, just some highlight items, and happy to answer any questions there. I think they speak for themselves. I just want to point out that Nixon, in their first year, raised their report card score from an F to a D, which is a pretty significant achievement. The growth scores, again, as you'll also see, both Bellingrath also raised their scores. Davis had a decline in their second year, slight, but there was a decline and flattening out, and we did see that. Again, their first year had some really strong performance. All those are things that are being incorporated in and were incorporated into this past year, so we should see, again, that trajectory continue forward on an upward. The growth scores, as you'll see, Nixon was one of the top 25, not percent, but 25 schools in the entire state with the highest growth score after their first year. Bellingrath had also an increase in the growth score. Again, Davis flattened out that year, and there was a slight decrease. As I mentioned earlier, you see the first 1, 2, and 3 years where there's definitely a up and down, and also is solidifying the base. Just looking at enrollment, that's really not that significant, other than we did have an increase across the board in enrollment for all 3 schools. You'll see the ELA proficiency. All 3 schools did increase their ELA proficiency. And also the math proficiency at Nixon had a very strong increase. Davis had a very strong increase. Bellingrath stayed flat after their, that was their first year. Okay, so remember this data that you're seeing right there is all after only 1 year for Nixon and Bellingrath, and only the second year for Davis. So I think that context, sometimes again, you think there's been numerous years, but just wanted to get that fully shown. The only current data to share right now is the next, which is the reading data. And what you see is what met benchmark and what, as far as for the second grade and third grade reading scores. Year over year, as you can see, Nixon had a 15-point increase to 57% meeting the benchmark. Nixon was at the bottom of the entire state prior to conversion as far as in reading scores. So we're very, very proud of that, and it's a great trajectory. Third grade, 62% are now meeting benchmark. Again, that's an increase of 26 points in only 1 year. Davis had an increase of 9 points for second grade and an increase of 33 points for third grade. So when I talk about, as we saw that kind of flattening, Davis year 2, this past year, this is a little bit of indication of seeing some more improving results at Davis that we should see come with the other scores. But that's really the total. I know Ms. Anderson may want to add, but I'll pause too if there are any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sykes. Are there questions, Ms. Sykes? Yes.
I have
Dr.
one.
Keith.
On the reading scores, are these, I'm not familiar, so I may speak in ignorance with ACAP. Are these ACAPs?
This is the reading ACAP, okay? It's not the ELA.
So these scores,
It's a
are
subtest.
they the scores that where Dr. Mackey lowered the you have level 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, yes.
He lowered this, so this
So-
rise, is it due to that lowered?
Some of that is, yes.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, and I'm glad you said that, one of the things that we're really aware of, and I know it's been part of the summer and as they're planning and looking at next year, while we're pleased with the increase, you also need to keep in mind, that those scores are not grade level, that's proficiency or efficiency in reading. So you can meet benchmark and still be, quote, below grade level or in a mid down below. So this is going to mean we need to pay great attention to that fourth grade, that we know we have a contingent, and dig down, which they've already been doing, and I'll let Ms. Anderson speak to that in a minute, about where within that, quote, met benchmark the students actually fell, because we know there's going to still need to be intense intervention and supports there. We can't just say, oh, great, 63%. It absolutely should be celebrated, and you're going to see this across all scores. They did do a comparison at the state level of if they had applied the old benchmark, what those scores would look like. And I'm sorry, I'm not even going to say because I don't want to give the wrong amount, but it was not that much of a difference. So they applied the old benchmarks. And let me just say, those benchmarks were changed thoughtfully, I think, and based on also what Mississippi did in the same kind of, you'll see that they raised the second grade exam was more rigorous this year, as it should be, because you're really trying to get that trajectory going. The third grade, again, lowering that benchmark, they're going to continually, gradually increase it so that we don't just have one swipe without some fine tuning to make sure we're capturing all children. But it does come with the responsibility of paying attention that not all of those that quote met benchmark are necessarily where we want them, if that makes sense.
It does. I will say this. I was pleased when I opened the packet to see the increases that Nixon and Bellingraph had, but did they, I really am. I mean, bravo. I'm pleased, you know.
We've still got lots of challenges. We're not saying we're there at all.
Right.
Please do not.
But was there any reason why there was a decline at Davis? Did y'all come up with was there some common thread or something as to why Davis fell?
Madam President, Dr. Brown, members of the board, thank you for your time. In taking a look at our data at Davis, we did determine that there were some deficiencies in our boys and girls instruction, and the deficiencies partly come from teacher capacity. We have quite a few of our teachers that are emergency certified, so we have to have an intensive plan to support teachers as they support our children. The other thing that we noticed in disaggregating our data was that our boys and girls needed support with specific science of reading strategies, including multisensory learning, and those are the things that we have included last year, which I believe have yielded results for us, and we'll continue to use those strategies.
Okay, one last question. Can you just, because it came up out of what you just said, can you ballpark for me what percentage of your teachers there are emergency, or really, I would like to know across the board what percentage of our emergency certificates are these conversion schools using?
A majority of our teachers are emergency certified, and we do have intensive plans of support. One of the things that Phelan Leadership Academies brings to the table to support our teachers is what we call a coaching cycle that's actively engaged with providing support based on domains of teaching and the art of science of teaching. So those domains are provided for teachers. We provide intensive support. We also have support with the district coaches that are available to us, as well as support with our PLA network initiatives and our coaches, and that provides support to those teachers. But it is a majority.
I will say, and just those supports, and Ms. Anderson can speak to that more, the coaching cycle is pretty intense, not only for the teachers, but also for the building leadership. The rubric that's used is on a monthly evaluation process, and this is not a come in and gotcha, but it is a in and out of the classroom continuous. And also those emergency certificates are not necessarily teachers that have never taught. There's people that don't have a current certificate, or it's not in field, and I believe all of them are in process on trajectories to get either the license either renewed, that they already have the background for, or achieving those certificates. So it's not just a teacher that's in there uncertified, that there's no trajectory or plan that is being supported.
Okay, do y'all also, on those emergency certificates, I know y'all are conversion and you're different than we are. Do you still have that policy where they have 3 years, or does that emergency just keep rolling over?
So we don't fall under the requirement of the 3 years, that none of the charter schools do.
I didn't think so.
However,
Okay.
I believe most of them are on track. Again, we're not looking to look at the minimum or so we're looking much more to have the same kind of trajectory we would want in any professional, and the same kind of challenges we're all having as far as, in teacher recruitment. I will say the retention of teachers has been strong, in the 80+% each year, and that's not trying to just keep anybody. I mean, that's really with tremendous amount of, again, evaluation, support, all those things, so we can have consistency, which I think is not equal, but very important, as well as the certifications.
Are there additional questions? Thank you again, both of
You're
you.
welcome. Thank y'all so much.
Ms. Floyd, welcome to the mic. Again, we will discuss Greenwood and Curriculum Associates one at a time, the first one being Greenwood Publishing Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Brown, Madam President, and board members. On behalf of Dr. Gregory King, our CAO, presenting on the proposals for elementary math, curriculum associates, and Heinemann Do the Math. Under the Alabama Numeracy Act, schools that have been identified as full or limited support are required to implement a high-quality, evidence-based mathematics intervention program. The Do the Math was selected because it was one of the requirements or approved on the list from the State Department. Do the Math is an intensive intervention curriculum that helps build and improve math foundational skills while supporting students who are 2 or more grade levels below. Do the Math is also a research-based curriculum that allows flexibility in the learning, aligns to the MTSS, and also support EL students. Do the Math also builds conceptual understanding through modeling and numerical reasoning skills. Do the Math is comprised of 30 minutes of hands-on, engaging mini lessons that support addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, while integrating technology as well. Ongoing support to teachers, principals, as well as math coaches will be implemented throughout the school year with our Do the Math program if it's approved by the board.
Thank you. Are there questions regarding the Greenwood Publishing Heinemann proposal? Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Ms. Floyd, for presenting this. I did have a few questions. I wanted to know, is this, and I didn't see it, and I may have overlooked it, is this a renewal or is this something new?
Under the Numeracy Act, the requirements with the Alabama Math Task Force, they identified they vetted 3 curriculums. One was Do the Math, which is Heinemann. Also, they vetted the teachers' created materials as well as curriculum associates. And this will be a new curriculum for MPS. It will not be part of the adoption.
Okay. And this is, I saw the funding source was ESSER funds, and we're going to use this for 3 years. My next question, let me see if I can read my handwriting. You mentioned integrating technology. My question then is how much seat time will the students have to have to make sure that that is, that's taking place? Is it the 30 minutes mini lessons? Is that technology time?
No, ma'am. Do the Math is really intensive curriculum, intervention curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really foundational skills, those students who are focused on the instructional gaps, the addition, subtraction, fractions, division, as well as multiplication. There's a limited time for the technology. Majority of the time is hands-on with the teachers and the students, using manipulatives as well as different instructional strategies.
And you said it would be limited seat time for the technology
Yes,
with more
ma'am.
hands-on.
Yes, ma'am. There's online assessments. Majority of the time will be hands-on.
Okay, and the reason I'm kind of focused on technology is because I know that's been one of our biggest challenges,
Yes,
integrating that technology in.
Yes,
My other question is, and this is an old question. It was brought up before. It would help if we could see data to see where our kids are so that we can make sound decisions that this is something, well, we can at least connect the dots, I'll put it that way, so that we'll know that what we're getting, we can support. And I won't belabor that has been discussed before you came up here, but that is something that I am concerned about. I would like to know where our students are and how this fits in the mission of what we're trying to drive here. So just FYI,
Yes, ma'am. May I elaborate on that?
Yes,
or
please.
clarify? With Do the Math, not only will they be supporting the teachers, they will be meeting with district office staff as well as the principals at least 2 to 3 times a year to provide us with data based on the summer report, students' engagement, as well as their online assessments that they're taking. So that information will be provided, and Dr. King, our CAO, that will be through him.
Right, and what we're asking, because we have this fiduciary responsibility to make sure things are working effectively. We just, as a board, would like to see just how our students are doing. So when we get to the state assessment, we'll know, hey, this really worked well for our kids. But
Yes, ma'am.
that doesn't, negate what you're trying to do, but I just wanted to share that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
One more comment, question.
Question. I know you said that they would be working with our teachers also, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And because we know a large part of our emergency cert is in math, how are they going to support the teachers and the students that run into trouble? Are they, I know sometimes we pull them out, they're after school. Are they available for that end of it, or are they just doing daytime professional development?
No, ma'am. We've designed a very intensive PD calendar to support teachers, coaches, as well as the principals. Do the math consultants will be coming into the building at least once a month for our priority schools or our 18 full and limited support schools. For those schools that are not part of our full and limited support, it will be one per semester to support them. And ongoing PD, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a little concerning to me because a month for a child that's not understanding what they're doing, that's a long time. And a semester is longer.
No, ma'am,
So
that's
how-
just with the consultants. The teachers will be provided that intensive support to intervene prior to.
Okay.
And then you have all your full and limited support schools have a math coach where they will work with teachers as well as with their students to support them.
Thank you. Curriculum Associates?
Well, I did have one more question.
Sorry about
Before we
that.
move,
Yes, ma'am, that's okay.
it popped in my head. With this particular program, and I don't know what others we have in place, but will they, with everything that we have, how do you ensure that these things are aligned? Because here's my bigger concern. We get the programs, and the teachers don't have the time to plug it in their schedules with the kids. So how would that, when it's rolling out, who's going to monitor the usage of it? How will we know if the children who's going to monitor the usage of it? Because in order for it to be effective, it has to be used. And are there any other programs that we may have that may be aligned to this, or this can be aligned to, or vice versa?
Yes, ma'am. Part of the Numeracy Act, elementary math, teachers are required to teach instruction, whole group instruction, or core instruction for 60 minutes, and then 30 minutes of intensive intervention. Right now, we currently do not have an intensive intervention program to support those deficiencies and those gaps based on our ACAP summative as well as our I-rated diagnostic assessment. So Do the Math will support that engagement and support those students who are not understanding math, the foundational skills.
And then how does it?
For the monitoring piece, not only myself will be monitoring the schools, we also have our math coaches and our instructional leaders, as well as those consultants will go in to support the teachers and provide that one-on-one side-by-side support.
And the alignment piece, how?
The alignment, for this piece here, the alignment is not based on grade level standards because it is intervention. So if you have a child who's in the 5th grade, but going 2 or more grade levels below, this will support that child to kind of build from that 2nd and 3rd grade of where he or she is scoring on the diagnostic assessment to be more grade level proficient.
Yes.
So we're contracting with them for 3 years?
Yes,
And-
ma'am.
Okay. just 1 year to see how it works?
Based on our math scores, we are needing support. Again, we do not have an intensive intervention program. This will be one of the first since I've been in the district, having a strong structured intervention program to support those mathematical skills that students are not understanding at grade level. We have to go back to that 2 or 3 grade levels below in order to support students.
But may I just say, I understand her question because maybe you do know them in more detail than you have time to say. Because it seems like when they show up, they get 2 or 3 years. Well, what if they don't meet our needs? Then we're stuck with them for a couple of years. We might maybe think about, and I understand this, Esther, this time, but we might think about putting more meat for 1 year and see how they do. And then just as a suggestion, because math changes, the state changes, we could be in something totally new next year. So just as a side note, maybe think of just.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again. At this time, Curriculum Associates, quote.
Curriculum Associates, which is already math, under the Alabama Numeracy Act, elementary schools identified as limited and full support are required to implement a high-quality, evidence-based comprehensive mathematics curriculum for their Tier 1 or core instruction. With iReady, we've looked at 18 of our 30 elementary schools who are considered to be full and or limited support to implement Curriculum and Associates Ready Math as their comprehensive curriculum to support learning progression of the new content. Ready Math also aligns to the Alabama math standards, which is grade level appropriate, and provides questions and tasks similar to the ACAP summative. Ready Math also provides students with hands-on activities with manipulatives to increase student engagement, aligns mathematical teaching practices with student mathematical practices, scaffolds real-world problem solving throughout the lesson. It supports English language learners, ongoing professional development to support teachers throughout the school year, as well as our math coaches, and it complements the iReady program that we're already using for our math K-5.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions? Go ahead. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Portis.
Now, I know they are using iReady, so they will keep that technical support for math on that iReady component.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Good.
Yes,
Thank you.
Ms. Cloud?
So we're gonna keep iReady, and we're gonna add the Heinemann, the Greenwood Publishing, the Heinemann proposal.
Yes, ma'am. Honeyman Do the Math. That is that intervention program, that intensive support. Not only can teachers actually teach that after the whole group instruction, it can be taught during Saturday school, it can be taught during after-school programs in order to support those deficiencies that our students are seeing or having.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, if you have a child on iReady, right, they're struggling, does that other program fit into iReady so they won't be confused? Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say fit into iReady, but it provides the students with that support if they're 2 or more grade levels
Same
below.
standards.
Yes, ma'am.
Other concerns? Thank you again.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is our May 2024 financial statement presented by Mr. Arthur Watts. Welcome, Mr. Watts.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Brown. You have before you the financial statement for the month of month of May 2024. May represents the 8th month of our fiscal year. Information within this financial statement includes the explanation of financial data, which is a brief discussion that the CFO provided the board that discusses the district's financial position as of May 31st, 2024. A snapshot analysis, which is provides a comparative information of the district's financial standing as of May 31st. A general fund breakdown of our general fund balance as of May 31st. Monthly budget percentages, which again, as I stated, this is the 8th month of the fiscal year, which represents 66.67% of the fiscal year. So we're almost coming to a close now. Monthly and annual comparative statement of revenues and expenditures, comparative data of May 31st, month to date, and May 31st, year to date revenues and expenditures, and it compares that information to May 31st, 2023, or the prior year, month to date and year to date. Also a statement of cash flow, which is several months of actual cash received and cash paid by the school district as of May 31st. Then a pie chart, which is a graph of those particular funds, along with a combined statement, all fund types, which includes our combined balance sheet, which speaks to our district's financial position, assets, liabilities, and equity, along with our combined statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, which is basically an income statement. Very quickly, Madam President, this is just the snapshot analysis. We see that we began the year with about $92 million. We had revenues thus far this year about $227 million, expenses of about $208 million. This is in our general fund. Have an ending fund balance of about $111 million. Compared to prior year, an ending fund balance of about $90.5 million. I do want to say that we'll be transferring about $17 million from our general fund to our debt service fund for anticipated payments for our long-term debt when we get ready to let the bonds, and we'll be letting the bonds sometimes really, really soon. I've been talking with the financial advisors. We're providing all of our updated statements and so forth, so that will be happening very, very soon. And of course, as you know, the way that bill was written, that half of the funds are to support our capital program. So that's why we'll be providing money to the debt service fund to be able to pay that long-term debt. There we see our general fund balance recap. Again, as I noted earlier, we had about $92 million at prior year compared to about $111 million the current year. And we see about $85.9 million of that are our local general fund dollars. Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Are there questions regarding the financial report? Ms. Watt, Ms. Smith.
I answer to both. I said I answer to both. You said Watkins, I thought. Mr. Watts, I did want to know if, and you may not know this off the top of your head, so I'm just going to ask for a budget for what's the budget for our CTE program overall? And for the arts are two things I'd like to see.
Okay, I'll have to get that information for you because while we do receive federal dollars for CTE, there are also monies that we have budgeted in our general fund for CTE as well. Now, our federal grant is around about $500,000 to $600,000. It's our federal CTE budget. But again, our general fund also supports CTE.
But if I can just get it, just to
absolutely,
see it.
Yes,
and for the arts as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And then my other question, because I know this goes to budget as well. I know that I want to say our central office staff does a tremendous job. I have watched through the years how many hats people are wearing, and it's a lot. But I wanted to know how many vacancies do we still have, and I know you have to monitor the money piece of that. But if we can get some information on how many positions still need to be filled, that's just so with all of these programs and things coming in, we have the amount of people we need to really push this. Yeah, that was what I wanted to know.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Now, I see HR is writing that down now about the vacancies, so I'm sure they'll be able to, along with the superintendent, be able to provide a report on the vacancies. But certainly, I'll certainly get this information regarding the arts and CTE.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there other questions? Ms. Portis?
I just have one. I know that we are allotted federal community engagement dollars. Is that correct or not?
Yes, ma'am. Part of the Title I monies a portion of that have to automatically be allocated for parenting family engagement. Yes,
And
ma'am.
that's per school, each school has their own.
Certainly each Title I school, but I think we go beyond and try to do something for those non-title schools as well.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you again, Mr. Watts. Next, we have 3 items being presented by Mr. Chad Anderson. We will begin with the BTW Chapel renovation.
Good evening, Dr. Brown, Dr. Coleman, Ms. Brown, and members of the board. The BTW Chapel renovation and athletic field storage building. Currently, there was a building that was an existing structure in the back of the school that was an existing old church chapel that's been decommissioned. There was no renovation done to that. When we did the other part of the building, was something we had anticipated to pick up after the construction. So that renovation is the fixing and repairing of damaged wood from the exterior, painting, and then some sidewalks, curbing and sidewalks there with that, some window work that will need to be repaired on the window just from sun damage and wear and tear. And then the athletic storage facility is just a small metal building, concrete pad with some power that will be there for storage of athletic equipment, and also the lawn mower and field equipment that will be used to maintain and take care of the soccer field there.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
One of them is, we're talking about BTW, so I'll tell you what, I'll save it to the end and let you go through everything.
Okay.
Thank you. The Carver roof?
The Carver Elementary roof replacement, that is the low bid for replacing that roof. That's something we've been working on with the architects to bid out and try to have completed prior to the start of school this year. So that is for your consideration also.
Are there questions specifically about the Carver Elementary School roof? Hearing none, the Katoma.
And same as Carver Elementary, low bid tabulation was provided. Something, again, we're trying to complete prior to the start of school.
Okay. Are there questions of Mr. Anderson? Ms. Smith?
I will rescind mine. I'll wait till the work session. I think that'll be the proper place.
Thank you. Okay, tonight is another opportunity for the Montgomery County Board of Education to reaffirm its commitment to parental and family engagement. Dr. Brown.
I'm excited to share an update and what I think is an upgrade of our current parental and family engagement policy by incorporating the 6 PTA national standards that's been discussed in some previous meetings. We've been discussing this for some time, and unbeknownst to me, I thought we had done this already, but we had not. So tonight's the night to present that for you. That policy was shared roughly a month ago, so everyone had a draft of that. Happy to entertain any questions you might have that I can answer.
Thank you. Are there questions regarding the policy? Okay. Yes.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Brown, and I want to recognize the PTA. I think we have Phaedra Carson Foster here, who's County Council PTA, that brought this to the board. And I think many of us having either been members of the PTA or helped schools start PTAs in the district, understand the hard work that they put in to ensure that, one, to hold us accountable as board members, and to also be vocal advocates for the teachers and the students. And so I am so glad that we're able to officially adopt this, and I would like to thank the PTA for pushing this initiative to make sure that we stay true to our word, which we often want to do. And we know we have to vet things and make sure they're aligned appropriately. But thank you, Dr. Brown, for putting it on the agenda and for recommending it tonight.
The next agenda item is the Alabama Association of School Boards. Each board member received notification of this recognition award that's being offered again this year. 5 members across the state will receive the recognition. Our own member, Claudia Mitchell, was a recipient in 2023. We are encouraged to submit the name of a deserving member who meets the boardsmanship qualifying characteristics and has participated in membership engagement activities as outlined in the award notice. Are there any questions, or do we have a nomination?
Madam President, I have a nomination.
Ms. Mitchell.
I would like to nominate President Brenda Doremus, Dr. Brenda Doremus Coleman as our recipient.
I second it. You can do that.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that we submit the name of Dr. Brenda Doremus Coleman. Are there other nominations? Are there other nominations? Hearing none, I thank you for considering me for the nomination, and definitely for making certain that there is a representative. I'm sorry. I think it's on the consent agenda. Is it not? Okay. No, it's considered for approval. It's considered for approval. Thank you. But we definitely want to make certain each year that we do submit a qualifying member's name. Again, I thank you for considering me.
Madam President, I would like to recommend that we go into executive session on personnel.
Okay.
We can't talk about curriculum, right?
We cannot talk about curriculum, thank you. It has to be personnel issues.
Okay.
And that was a motion?
Yeah, that's my motion.
Okay, is there a second? It has been moved and seconded that the board go into executive session to discuss personnel issues related to job placements. Is there discussion? All those in favor, raise your hands. It passes. I'm sorry, all those opposed, raise your hand. It does pass. We will go into executive session. We should be in executive session approximately 10 minutes. During the executive session, no votes will be taken. We will now reconvene the regular board meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Education. No votes were taken during our executive session. The next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. Dr. Brown?
Madam President, I recommend for approval the consent agenda as listed.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent regarding our consent agenda items A through K. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. Consent agenda. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay. All those opposed, raise your hands. It passes. There are 5 items to consider for approval. We will begin with personnel report. Dr. Brown?
Madam President, I recommend for approval the personnel report, certified personnel.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion? Yes.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. 5. All those opposed? 0. We can call for abstentions. 2. Thank you. Dr. Brown, personnel report classified.
Madam President, I recommend for approval the personnel report, classified personnel.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take the vote. All of those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? Were there abstentions that time? I didn't see them. Thank you. Dr. Brown, personnel report teams.
Madam President, I recommend for approval the personnel report teams.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the personnel report teams.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation regarding personnel report teams. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? And 1 abstention. Thank you. Item D, legal settlements.
Madam President, I recommend for approval the legal settlements agreements.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent for legal settlements.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent regarding the legal settlements. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? All abstentions? Thank you. Item E, Dr. Brown.
Madam President, I recommend for approval the nomination to the All-State School Board for recognition.
Madam President, I recommend that we accept the recommendation of the All-State School Board Recognition Program. I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation that we support the All-State Recognition Program nomination. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. Thank you. At this time, we have taken care of the business of the Montgomery County Board of Education. The regular board meeting is adjourned. At this time, we move promptly into our work session. The July 9 work session of the Montgomery County Board of Education is called to order at 6:32. Again, good evening, and thank you, each of you, for joining us. Please remember to mute electronic devices. We are still 7 members strong. I declare that a quorum is present. The agenda has been posted for our review. If there is no objection, we will accept this agenda by unanimous consent. The question before you, is there objection? Hearing none, the agenda has been approved by unanimous consent. We will receive as information several items. The first item on tonight's agenda is from Volkert. It is going to be presented to us tonight by Mr. Glenn Slater. Welcome, Mr. Slater.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Brown. This is our July 9th, our monthly update for the capital improvement program. We're going to go over Carver High School's 9th grade academy, the South Lawn Middle School Gymnasium edition, and the Park Crossing Fieldhouse edition. Again, our project team is JMR&H. Bailey Harris is the construction contractor. Overall percentage complete with the whole project is roughly 80%. This is standing in the driveway with Fairview to your back, looking straight toward the front of the school. We conducted the second overhead inspection with the state week before last, and we have life safety inspection scheduled for the second. We've got fire alarm equipment's being installed. Ceiling tiles have been laid in. We've got a little bit of we're going to have to pull some of it back out to install some bi-directional amplifier devices for the first responders on it. The toilets and the sinks are being installed. The LVT, which is the floor similar to what we've got here in the room here, is being installed in the classrooms. The hallways are being polished, concrete. The final coat of paint's going on the walls, as well as the marker boards. Interior doors are being hung. The teacher casework at the classrooms is expected to come in next week. We were expecting it this week, but they fell back a week. They're working on their punch list. Furniture is in queue to get here by the time school starts. And the vendor has assured me it will be here. Here's a photo of the little area of the admin of the 9th grade academy. Floors are much more polished than what they are there shown on this photo. This photo is probably a week and a half old. Again, another corridor photo. Ceilings are in, doors are hung. Hardware's not installed yet, but they're working toward that. Here's a plumber installing the water fountains. Toilets are being protected. This is where the sinks will be to the left of the sheet here. This is one of the typical classrooms. As you can see, the floor is down. They've got a protective coating over it right now. not in this photo, but is in real life. There's like a hard cardboard on it to keep it from getting damaged during the rest of the construction. This is the art room. I think it's going to be a nice place here, or nice space. You can see the floor. They've polished it a little bit more than what's here now, but you can see the reflective of the lights there. Looking back toward Fairview and downtown. This is a science lab. The casework has been installed since this photo was taken. Looks like it's coming together real nice. This is our little timeline of our schedules. We've got our building dried in, of course, and air conditioning is running right now. They've got 2 or 3 units that are not quite up and running, but they're working to bring those in. We'll have to bring the commissioning agent in to verify the startup is done properly. We've got the finishes going in and finishing up right now, and we're aiming to get substantial completion on the 2nd. But again, the contractor has contractually, has until the 22nd to finish the job, but we're pushing as much as we can along with the contractor to get in by the 2nd. This is South Lawn Middle Gym. Carl Expert was our architect. Holly Henley is the builder on it. They're about 32% complete. The hollow core planks have been installed. Light gauge trusses are being installed, and the skeletal portion of the steel is up at this point. See, here is standing on 31, looking to the west. And this is more of the steel. We'll have CMU walls going up soon there. The next project we've got in construction right now is Park Crossing High School field house on it. Goodwin Mills and Kaywood is the architect on it, which was the architect when the main school was constructed. Bullard Cook is the contractor, and we're showing about 58% complete. The CMU walls are almost topped out around it. They've got electrical rough end going in. There's some work on the inside of the training room. The demolition portion is well underway, and hopefully to have it wrapped up before school starts back up. Electrical panels have been delivered, and they're working on installing the cans for the breakers and such. This is standing in the front there with Park Crossing Drive, or Park Crossing Road would be to my back here from this photo. Interior photo of where the weight room will be. Can't hardly tell with all the construction materials laying around in it. Another one of the rooms. This is a restroom, locker room facility right here. Got the carriers sticking out the wall there at the top. The little dark spots is what the sinks will slide up on to keep them from being able to be pulled off the wall. And our current minority participation, professional services contracts are at $22 million, with MBE contracts at 11.9 or 54%, and construction contracts to date are 42.7 million, with 1.5 of that going toward minority contracts, with the overall participation at this time at 21%. That concludes our update for the month.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mr. Slater? Ms. Watkins-Smith.
Yes, and you may have said the completion date for Carver, and if you did, could you repeat it?
We're pushing for it to be ready for school to start, and where we can go in there. There's some caveats that there's some punch list items that are done We've got some water and sewer problems right now that we're working through to get done. The contractor is committed to do everything they can to get it done, but at the same time, their contract completion date is the end of September, not the early August date.
Meanwhile, we're working on a short-term contingency plan that we do not expect to use.
Okay.
We do.
And that answers
Are
my
there
question.
additional questions?
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. The next two items are policy updates presented by Mr. Watts. We're going to begin with the debt management policy.
Proposed debt management policy and a proposed investment policy. I think I sent this also in my update to kind of give an overview of exactly what the debt policy is. It is basically a policy that would ensure that any debt that the district engage in would be for public school purposes, mainly for the construction of buildings. So when we let the bond, then that is debt. We wanted to make sure that we had a policy in place even before we did that. This debt policy has also gone through our financial advisors. We wanted to make sure that it was something that they were good with. It has gone through our depository, our Regions Bank, and it has gone through and approved by our attorneys. So we are recommending this policy to be approved.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the debt management policy? The investment policy, Mr. Watts.
Sure. Also, we are also providing an investment policy to ensure that the board is getting the best interest rates or income off of its current deposits. So this will provide us an opportunity to go out and send out RFPs to other banks that are part of the State Safe program. Now, the State Safe program is a qualified depository program where the states say, in order for any school district to deposit monies into this bank, then you must meet these certain state and federal requirements. And so any bank that we intend to engage with to invest CDs or treasuries or whatever, then they must follow the state guidelines. We want to make sure that when we send that out, that we'll send a copy of this policy out with those institutions to make sure that they understand what our expectations are. This also passed the muster of our financial advisors, our depository, and our financial attorneys.
Thank you. Are there questions? Thank you again, Mr. Watts. The next four items are operational updates, beginning with facilities. Welcome, Mr. Anderson.
Good evening, Dr. Brown, Dr. Coleman, Ms. Brown, and members of the board. We'll go through our spreadsheet for the operations update. We've currently heard from the Bulkert Capital Project concerning Park Crossing, Carver, and South Lawn Middle School. The Brubaker Intermediate HVAC renovation is tracking right at 85 to 90%, should be completed prior to the start of school. They're hoping to turn over everything on that particular site within the next 2 weeks. We're pushing very close on Brubaker Primary's HVAC as well. It says 70 to 75%. They're moving so quickly, it's hard to keep up with the percentage on it, but they're tracking to try to move and finish that prior to the start of school as well, which it's way ahead of schedule from where it should be, so we're really happy with that portion of it. The Carver High School roof repair, that's nearing the end of its life cycle on its project date. There, you see the front of it is taken apart. There's some metal panels that'll be going on the front of the school there, up in the higher level, and then they have to put some of the metal over the roof caps or the parapet caps that are up on those parapet walls. The Morning View and Davis design, I'm starting to meet with those people weekly. The engineers are working on the preliminary items, some of the testing that they have to do, and we'll be working on that design to hopefully have something moving for bid towards the end of this semester, or the end of the fall semester, so we can get started as quickly as we can on those Morning View and Davis items. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Brubaker primary intermediate roof replacement. They are moving very quickly also, way ahead of schedule. They're probably in the 70 to 75% range of being complete with that, and continue to move well on it as well. The Blunt re-roof and Chisholm re-roof, we held the pre-construction meetings on 7/2. Those will begin here shortly. The shingle roofs have moved very quickly. You'll see we've completed below that E.D. Nixon, Johnson, and Halcyon is actually complete also. It was completed in between from when I last sent it, so they're moving very quickly on the shingle roofs to get those done prior to the start of school. And Garrett is also complete. The operations security HVAC, the people that are doing that work are the same people that are part of Brubaker Primary and Intermediate. Again, the focus is there. That's been approved, but we're waiting until they finish those projects, and then they'll come over to the operations building there to complete that work as well. The vertical surfaces and treatment cleaning, they were off the last couple of weeks, one for the 4th of July, and two, we were waiting on some product to come in with that. I think you've seen from the horizontal surfaces and the photos there and what's being cleaned up from the vertical surfaces. The product is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and again, it's going to last for 4 to 5 years instead of 3 to 6 months like just pressure washing, typical pressure washing will do. We've been very pleased with that product. I believe the Alabama Department of Transportation is also considering using that treatment as well. The Carver Elementary and Katoma roof were approved tonight. We'll begin those immediately and get a pre-construction meeting set up for those. And then, of course, the BTW chapel renovation as well. And I'll save the other items for the next agenda items.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Cloud.
We're not going to talk about the electric bus acquisition?
I was saving it for the next agenda item. I just did the facilities part. I was waiting for E for the next one. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Watkins-Smith.
Mr. Anderson, I'm going to take you down to the vertical surface treatment cleaning. Okay. I know some of my schools have roofing and all that going, so that won't be an option. But is there a way that you can send us like your task list or priority list on the schools that you'll be using this company to clean?
We're going to do it until we finish all of them. I'm just trying to. We tried to work on some of the low-hanging fruit, like the smaller ones that we could move quickly while they were waiting on a lift to be brought in, and then now we've been working on the ones that we needed a lift on, so that we just maximize our time with that, and we're not bringing a lift out and taking it back and forth. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Additional questions? Okay. Yes, sir. Update on that electric bus acquisition.
That was approved. The grant for that was approved towards the late part of the spring of last year, or last school year. So we've been working on some of that this summer with some of the infrastructure pieces. So I've had Lion Electric Bus Group. That's the company that is approved state vendor that the State Department of Transportation, the school State Department of Transportation approved. We've been working with them, and Dixie Electric. That's the cooperative that handles the electricity out there where the transportation yard is. They're going to upgrade our service there, and then we'll be putting in 2 chargers for that station. The buses, they've gotten all the specifications that MPS requires and the state requires, and they're currently manufacturing those buses, and we hope to have those installed here or delivered here in the near future, like in the middle or so of the fall semester.
How many are we gonna?
We did 2 on this one. They're, the way they kind of set that up is you give them your list of buses from the transportation department, and they look at it with you and identify that round of it. Again, I think with the grants, I think the pricing has been a little inflated. I hope now that the grants are starting to kind of subside, that they'll start coming down on the pricing, and then the State Department, they provide us bus allocation like for each year. I hope they will increase that allocation so that we can start adding those, as our fleet ages out over the years here.
What is the cost, real quick?
Cost is around $400,000.
One?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
When we first started, it was a little over 300,000, but.
It's with the rebates and everything like that, this part won't cost us much at all. We've got to do some infrastructure with the charging stations that'll cost us maybe $100,000 to add that in, but Dixie Electric is going to provide the infrastructure piece. We just have to add some of those with the charging stations.
I know you're going to get tired of this question from me, but I'm still a little bit confused because we're talking about the EPA grant.
Yes, ma'am.
But we also received something from Congresswoman Terry Sewell. What does her contribution have to do? I mean, are they the same? Is it the same monies or?
I'm not sure what they're referring to on that from Congressman Sewell. I was thinking, I know she did the big presentation with the ESSER funds.
Yeah, I think the funds have been approved, they just haven't been distributed yet, so therefore we don't know what that looks like as of yet. But we haven't gotten anything finite that tells us this is.
We haven't received it, but they published it. Okay, it's been published in the newspaper, but that's okay. I'm excited about it either way we go, because it sounds like if we have the grant funding and if that's a plus Congresswoman Sewell's funding, then we are ready to make some big strides.
We really want to continue to add to this fleet. The infrastructure piece that we're doing with this will allow us to add many more chargers to this, so we're setting that piece of it, and that'll make the future expansion a lot better. The one concern I do have are the latest round of grants, the funding is decreasing, so it's good to hear that Congressman Sewell is pushing for us to have something like that to add to it.
Thank you. Ms. Cloud?
Okay, 2 things, please.
Yes, ma'am.
We're putting the power stations there to
Charging
charge them up,
station.
the charging station?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the increase on our power bill? What's the percentage do you think that would be to charge? Are you going to charge them up every day? What does that entail?
No, it won't need to be charged every day. We'll have to pick the certain routes. The range on those buses is about 120 to 140 miles. So we can probably go every couple of days with some of the internal routes, like the inner city routes that we'll use them for. We won't have to charge each and every day, but the average cost per year of a single bus is somewhere typically between $4,000 to $6,000.
Do you have any information on how that compares to diesel fuel?
It's gonna, I won't say it's gonna wash, but it is, there's different aspects of the savings of it that you'll have, like there's not as much upkeep that a mechanic would have on those certain buses. You're still gonna change the tires and do certain things, but there's a little bit less upkeep with some of that. And then, just being smart with the routes so that we set it up where we're not having to charge them every single day. And they'll admit to you that they're not ready to take those buses like on a long athletic trip or something like that. It's really meant for, smaller routes right now, but they've set these buses up, all of them, so that as the technology continues to improve, you can upgrade them very easily, like swapping the batteries out or different things. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, my second question is, have you priced what a lithium battery costs for these buses?
For those buses, I've not priced these with Lion International. We did with that, and it was approximately $30,000 to $40,000, like with that whole big battery pack, but you didn't have to, you typically didn't have to replace all of those at once. It was going to be a cell, and a cell of those is, a few $1,000s.
Ms. Watkins Smith?
I had a similar question, and it was centered around the battery and the maintenance of it. And so I'll go into, I know we did have a set aside for our, I guess, fleet renewal. I wanted to know if there would possibly be a time where we'll have a conversation about, depending on what all the totals are, because you have to buy the charging stations, get those in, maintenance those, as well as the buses. Is there any projected cost increase that we could see to that, or y'all is that a part of the discussion?
And that is one reason why we really wanted to dip our toe into it instead of going and getting 25 or 30. They'll let you apply for as many as you want. Now, they look at your fleet to help you determine those, but, I think what we did allows our mechanics to get their hands on those buses and kind of work through that and work through the kinks of it and things that are going to be there. But this group, Lion Bus Electric, has been around since the technology came around. It's 20 plus years. They're not new to the electric buses. They're just a newer name to this area of what you hear. So
will our mechanics have to go through special training?
some of it, there will be some diagnostic pieces of it that would probably be a little bit different, but their maintenance, their routine maintenance will be the same basically as what they would on a regular bus, minus like not having to change the oil and things like that. It's going to be more like tire maintenance, brake maintenance, things like that. They're all very similar.
So will they have a diagnostic tool that they use?
Yes, ma'am. And then also our Traversa system that'll be going on each of those buses has a diagnostic tool that'll also hook to the computer and send those mechanics reports on each of our buses as well.
And how much does that usually run, those diagnostic tools?
We already have that. That's not an additional.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ted, if you clarify, I just want to say this. If anybody asks, I'm going to say what I heard, and then you go, you're right, you're wrong. We got 400,000 on the bus, 100,000 on the station, 6,000 for gas. But the 4,000 and the 100,000 is a grant, so that's not really coming out of our pocket. What's coming out of our pocket is the 6,000. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, the electric bill that'll come in there. With Alabama Power too, and I know the states are being pushed on this to kind of them provide us subsidies to help some of those costs.
Right, and we're hoping each year.
Correct.
And that's how. Okay, so that's a pretty good deal.
I think it's better to be on the forefront of it so that you're not catching it from the backside, and it lets our mechanics, our drivers, different people get their hands on these buses and be able to provide feedback to Lion. And then International is working on it as well. That's the bus that we typically purchase. International has something with it. They're kind of newer to the market, newer to the game of it, but I think you're going to see a lot more competition coming in with it. There's more and more. I think there was something in WSFA's website today about the Montgomery City transit system putting in electric buses. So it's becoming more prevalent. It's something that we definitely want to be on the forefront, not catching the back end of it.
But we're not
And
sending
there
our
are
children
health
down to Mobile
benefits
to
as
play
well.
We're not sending our children down to Mobile to play a football game on one of these buses.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
Ms. Portis?
If they'll go, because I saw one in Orange Beach at a charging station. I sure did. I didn't know what it was at first, but I investigated, and it was a bus. But, and that would be a good CTE course to teach maintenance.
Absolutely. I just wrote that note down. We will be preparing our students to work on these vehicles. Absolutely. Are there other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
The Madison Park City MOU, that was an MOU that the board passed September 14th, 2021. It was coupled with the previous MOU that we did for the Floyd property. The Floyd property MOU, and I just want to preface this one with that, the Floyd MOU property transfer, that's to be completed and given over to the city once they pay 53 properties, and they're in the process of that. This MOU was done so that we were provided materials. The Floyd MOU is just the service. So we did an appraisal on the Madison Park property, and the city had to complete so much work material-wise, like the asphalt and the painting and that sort of thing, to satisfy this MOU. They have satisfied this MOU, and it is now time to sign the property over to the city of Montgomery.
Thank you. Are there questions? No questions? Continue, Mr. Anderson.
I got one more.
One more.
Yeah, the long one. The new sports coaching supplements. There are several supplements that you see here that are for two sports, newer, more emerging sports, esports and flag football. When we started the inception of flag football about a little over a year ago, that we had 3 teams of our high schools. 3 of our 7 high schools were participating. This year, 5 of our 7 high schools will be participating. We've had a lot of interest with middle schools wanting to create flag football teams as well. So it's a growing program. We love to see the interest of the kids and the coaches and all. We do want to take care of our coaches for spending time away from their families after school, before school. And if you recall, Brewtech was actually in the semifinals last year for the flag football, and the city of Montgomery graciously let us use Crampton Bowl, and we had a really good turnout for that. The esports is one that's growing, and you may have paid attention over the years. We had the 3-time state champion esports group with LAMP, and then we also have several other esports groups around the city, maybe not have as much notoriety as what LAMP has been able to do over the last several years. But again, we want to add to these programs and continue to build on them, and the supplements will help us do that by providing something to these coaches that are using their time after school, before school, to work with our youth.
Thank you. Are there questions?
I just have one comment. I appreciate you doing this. This makes us look so efficient in why we're spending our money. But I do have one question. It says current Alabama teacher certification preferred or classified depending upon qualifications of the person holding the position. So classified people can hold these positions.
Correct, yes, ma'am. We've worded it that way so we don't limit ourselves to certain things, and we just want to be able to, provide the best situation for our kids and people that have a passion for it.
But in writing, because if I aspire to be this, I know what I need to do.
Yes, ma'am. What we provided was the actual job description requirements, and that's what will be posted for these.
Just read the answer, but I'm gonna make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
The esports, you're trying to get in more schools.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we'll open this up to all schools, middle school and high school.
Okay, because I did want to put in there that I knew that Brewtech was interested a while ago. In fact, about 2-3 years ago, in having this program. So I'm glad to see that. And I wanted to echo what Ms. Porter said. The supplements, it's nice to see a description and the qualifications for it. I hope it will be extended and expanded to all, that work will continue to happen. But she took the words out of my mouth.
We currently do it. It's just we put it in writing to make it official.
Are we good? Thank you. We had one new business item submitted. New business item, 5,000 role models of excellent project, submitted by Ms. Claudia Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell?
Well, good evening, everyone. I would just like to ask the board members to just please look at the information that you received. You received some information electronically, and also you have the packets before you. The Role Models of Excellent project is simply amazing. This is a project for young men who have certain issues or certain problems that are experienced by young men in an urban district like ours. And what we would like is for the mentors and volunteers in our community to step forward in joining us in helping to guide our children from boyhood to manhood. Now, I was approached by a teacher at Jack High School who actually was a part of this program when he was in high school. At the time he was involved, it was 100 role models, and today it's 5,000. And this program was started in 1993 by now U.S. Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, and she started this program when she was a board member. And it truly made a difference in Miami-Dade, Florida. It actually changed the climate and culture of the region. They started out with high school, and now it has spread it from kindergarten all the way to high school, where they take these young men and they're paired with mentors and they're guided. So I would like for us to place this on the agenda for our meeting in August. The superintendent and I were on a Zoom call with the Congresswoman and her committee, and they have an expansion plan 2024. You might see that information. And they had already noted our statistics and wanted to volunteer. And then her former student, who is now teaching at JAG High School, Mr. Andrew Harris, called her, and she was really elated. And the program will be a model program because that's how we do it at MPS. So if you please look at this information within the next week, ask any questions, and Dr. Hammonds and his two sponsors will be able to answer any questions concerning this. They will guide us, and we'll get to make it a fit for our community.
Okay, thank you. Our next meeting dates, August 13, 2024, here in the training room. Hearing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.